All right, let's dive in. Today, we're going to talk about the Islamic Golden Age. This is the incredible story of how a brand new empire decided to build, from the ground up, a powerhouse of innovation, and how that completely shaped the world that you and I live in today. But before we get into all that, I've got a question for you. The word algebra. I mean, we all know it, it's a huge part of modern math, right? But have you ever stopped to think, where did that word actually come from? Just hang on to that thought. We're going to circle back to it, and I promise the answer is pretty cool. So, how does something like this even happen? What sets the stage for such an explosion of knowledge? Well, it all kicks off with what you could call a political and cultural earthquake. Okay, picture this. It's the year 750 CE. A massive revolution is sweeping across the Middle East. A new group, the Abbasids, have just overthrown the old rulers, the Umayyad Caliphate. And you gotta understand, this wasn't just a simple case of out with the old, in with the new. No, this was a total reinvention of what an empire could even be. And you can really see the difference here. The Umayyads, they were based in Damascus, and their whole deal was pretty Arab-centric. It was all about conquest. The Abbasids, on the other hand, had a totally different playbook. They set up shop in Baghdad and built a cosmopolitan empire. They brought everyone into the fold. Non-Arabs, like Persians, were key players in the government and military. And their focus? It shifted big time. Away from just conquering land and towards building this incredible, sophisticated culture built on one thing: knowledge. And if you've got this grand new vision, you need a grand new stage for it, right? So they literally built a new capital from scratch. In 762, the Caliph al-Mansur founds Baghdad. And this place wasn't just another political capital. It was designed from day one to be the center of the world for science, for culture, for art, for trade. For a while there, it was the biggest and richest city on the planet. So, to make this vision a reality, to fuel this incredible ambition, they kick off what is, no exaggeration, one of the most ambitious intellectual projects in all of human history. They called it the translation movement. Think of it like they built this massive engine for knowledge. It worked in 3 steps. First, step 1, acquisition. They sent scholars all over the known world, Byzantium, Persia, India, with a simple mission: get your hands on every important book you can find. Step 2, translation. They bring all these texts back to Baghdad and start this huge government-sponsored project to translate everything, systematically, into Arabic. But here's the most important part, step 3, innovation. They didn't just stick these books on a shelf to gather dust. They studied them, they argued with them, they critiqued them, and they used them as a launch pad to build something new. And the heart of this whole operation, this central hub, was the legendary Bayt al-Hikmah, the House of Wisdom. I mean, what was it? It was kind of like a national library, a top-tier university, and a massive translation center all rolled into one incredible institution. This was the absolute epicenter of everything we're talking about. And they were super strategic about it. It was like they had a shopping list for knowledge. Look at what they grabbed. Philosophy from Plato and Aristotle, science from people like Euclid and Ptolemy, medicine from Galen, all the big math texts from Greece and India. See a pattern? It's all practical, useful stuff. Now look at what they didn't translate. Homer's poetry, Greek plays, histories by people like Thucydides. This tells you they weren't trying to just copy another culture. They were on a mission to grab the world's most powerful scientific and philosophical toolkit. So, what happens when you do all this? What's the payoff? Well, it was absolutely staggering. It led to a genuine explosion of knowledge and created concepts and words that we literally use every single day. And remember that question I asked at the beginning about algebra? Well, here's your answer. In the 9th century, there was this Persian scholar working in the House of Wisdom. His name was Al-Khwarizmi. He wrote a groundbreaking book about math. And in the title of that book was the Arabic term algebra, which means completion or restoring. It described a method for balancing equations. That term, algebra, is where we get the word algebra. Simple as that. And get this, it doesn't stop there. Ever heard the word algorithm? Of course you have. It's the foundation of every single computer program, every app on your phone. Well, the word algorithm is just the Latin version of Al-Khwarizmi's name. I mean, think about that. His influence is literally coded into our modern digital world. But again, and this is so important, they weren't just blindly accepting everything they translated. Take the physician Al-Razi. He totally respected the ancient Greek doctor Galen, who was like the authority. But when Al-Razi's own observations with his own patients didn't line up with what Galen wrote, he challenged him. He had the confidence to write a book called, and I love this title, The Doubts on Galen. That tells you everything. This was a culture built on critical thinking and actually pushing science forward. Now, you can probably guess what happened next. When you bring in all this Greek philosophy, all this emphasis on logic and reason, it's bound to create some tension. It sparked these huge, intense debates about a really big question. What's the relationship between faith and reason? I mean, this was the central challenge they faced, and it's a huge one. On one hand, you have the logic of philosophers like Aristotle, which says you can understand the entire universe just by using your brain. On the other hand, you have the divine revelations of the Quran. How do you make those two things fit together? Or do they? Basically, two big schools of thought popped up to tackle this. You had the falsafa camp, the philosophers. Thinkers like Ibn Sina, who took the tools of Greek logic and just ran with them, using reason to explore, well, everything. Then you had the kalam camp, the theologians. And what's fascinating is that they used the exact same tools of logic and rational debate, but for a different purpose. Not to discover brand new truths, but to defend and explain the principles of Islam. It was this incredible, high-stakes debate about what reason is even for. Okay, so we have this explosion of thought and science, but what happened to it all? Where did it go? Well, this golden age didn't just fade away. It left echoes. Echoes that would end up shaping the entire world. What's really amazing is that even when the Abbasid Empire started to break up politically around the 900s, the ideas kept going. The intellectual momentum was too strong to stop. New centers of learning popped up in other places, especially Córdoba in what we now call Spain. And then, starting around the 1100s, all of this knowledge, this incredible library of science and philosophy, starts to pour into Europe, which at the time was kind of lagging behind. And this knowledge traveled through a bunch of different channels. The most important one was Al-Andalus, Muslim Spain. It was like a super highway for information. But it also spread through trade with cities like Venice and Genoa. Even contact during the Crusades played a part. And here's the key step. European scholars started translating all these amazing Arabic texts into Latin, and these books became blockbusters. Ibn Sina's Canon of Medicine, for example, was the standard medical textbook in European universities for centuries. We're talking 500 years. It really helped set the stage for what would become the European Renaissance. So, let's wrap this up with one final thought. The big takeaway here is that this wasn't just about preserving old books. It was about taking that knowledge, challenging it, combining it, and creating something completely new. And the legacy of this golden age, it's not some dusty old history. It is all around us. The numbers we use every day? Yep, those Arabic numerals. The algebra and algorithms that run our financial systems and our technology, even the foundations of modern experimental medicine. It's not just an echo from the past. It's woven right into the fabric of the world we live in today.